I've been struggling, my entire childhood with mental health problems. I was dealing with bipolar depression and was diagnosed when I was 19. It was hard because there was no solution that seemed to work. Everything blunted me or just turned me into a zombie. And I didn't want any of that. I wanted a solution that made me feel good, right? It made me feel happy. So, what made the problem even worse, when I was a student at the Ohio State University, I was studying neuroscience. Okay. And when I would see all of these therapists and all of these psychiatrists, they would explain, this is what bipolar depression is like. And I was like, yeah, I know. I've taken classes on this side. Like, I know exactly what's happening inside my brain. And so that made the problem worse. It made the problem very, very difficult to treat. So I decided I'm going to solve this myself. I'm going to take it into my own hands. And I've always, 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 always wanted to get into neurotechnology. Always wanted to get into neurotechnology, brain stimulation devices. And one day, I was sitting at Chipotle because I was working their evening shifts. You get a free burrito, free meal at shift. I said, why not? I'm a college student, right? I can't afford that. We'll get a free Chipotle every night. And I looked and I saw a vent on the wall. XY vent, a gridded vent, a little grid. And I was thinking about these very, very colorful lights, almost carnival-like. That was at Ohio State University's chemical engineering bit. They would flash and they would flicker and they would change color and they would create these complex patterns and art. And I said, what if we put those lights on the vent and put that vent and wrap it around someone's head? More specifically, what if we created a dynamic electrode array for the brain? And the array would light up in these dynamical ways. And that was the eureka moment. It really was. This is a real story. That was a eureka moment. Started the company a few days later, came up with some sketches and PowerPoints and pitch decks and showed some people. Finally created the first prototype. And I always tell people there are two moments when the company started. Moment number one, October 2018. That's when the corporation documents were filed to the Ohio government. Moment number two, me using the device for the first time, May 2019.
Wow.
That was the second moment the company started. Because that is when I realized how effective this technology really is. I didn't understand it before. I understood it when I used it on my own brain, and I saw exactly how the stimulation helped me wake up, communicate, be energized, be personable, laugh, and have emotion. I didn't even realize this is like you can have this side of life. I didn't realize this. So that's a little backstory to actually a segue into this, which is finally started using the devices and was really, really happy. The business was, kept pushing forward, kept connecting with doctors, kept trying to get things along. Now, I was a young man at the time. I was like 24. I started the company when I was 20. I was 24, still building the business. And I was living with my mom and dad. And at night, I would work as a janitor at local stores, a local TJ Maxx, a local gym. And one day I was working at the local gym. It was actually a high-end gym. It was a luxury gym. And I saw this guy lifting. He was lifting very complex. He was doing these advanced pull-ups. I was like, wow, this is really cool. We went into the sauna later and, we sat down, we started chatting. I was like, so what do you do? He was like, I'm in finance. I was like, what do you do? I said, I didn't want to tell him I'm a janitor. there. So I told him, oh, I developed, brain stimulation devices for Parkinson's disease. He was like, really? I'm actually a financial director at Wells Fargo. I was like, what is going on? He's like, we should meet up and have some coffee. I was like, okay. Him not realizing that I'm about to wipe his butt sweat at the sauna 5 minutes later. Like he doesn't like it's just like this is what I'm about to do. Okay, let's do it. Fast forward 2 weeks later, we finally set up coffee. We went and sat down with each other, and he said, Mo, why are you speaking to someone like me? I've never been a chief financial officer before. I was telling my wife about your company. And I was like, dude, dude, I'm sitting here looking for advice from you. Like, what are you? We're opposite right now. But it made me recognize my time at Ohio State when I was speaking to these psychiatrists and these neurologists. And I realized nobody knows what they're doing. Okay. Everybody is looking to somebody else for an answer. And that has been the biggest confidence booster to building my business to this day, which is, even though I started as an undergraduate, I know and I recognize that you just have to try, right? Nobody knows the answers. You have to try, you have to keep pushing, you have to fail forward. And so the insight of this story is even though you can start off mentally sick, having this illness and be a janitor and clean poop in toilets, you can have a medical company idea and you can connect with directors at Wells Fargo and actually inspire them to work for your business. So I'm very grateful to be where I am today. I'm very grateful to be connecting with people to share my story and be very grateful to connect with you two here today to talk a little bit more about kind of what we do. But that's kind of how our technology came to be. That's a little backstory about me. You
Cool.
guys can call me Mohawk Mo.
How do you pronounce your last name? I forgot to ask you that.
Yeah, it's a Bulasad.
Abouelsoud.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. You
it
want
means
to?
son of
Well,
a son
welcome to
of a.
Focused Healthy Family.
Okay.
This is Gina.
And this is Don, and this is podcast number 229. And today we're talking with Mohammed Abouelsoud. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Um, and he is the CEO of You the Mind Company, and he's also a neuroscientist.
Hmm.
I was going to read your bio, but you gave it, you gave most of it away in your talk today. So we could probably just get into the conversation and start talking a little bit about it because I know you're probably one of the youngest CEOs out there, and you told some good stories. What I was kind of curious of, I would have thought you would have developed this with your own mind in place, but it sounds like you kind of made it outside of that and then brought it to your mind. Is that?
Yeah. Well, I did. I when we built the tech when the device was first built, I had no idea what it was going to do subjectively.
Okay.
So we knew objectively, oh, it's going to increase connections in the frontal lobe and it's going to increase brain activation patterns, et cetera, et cetera. We knew that objectively, but what does that mean feeling wise? I had no
Mhm.
idea.
Hmm.
And so there's a difference between the objective nature of brain stimulation and the subjective nature of it. And so my job as the CEO is to always communicate to people the subjective nature. What is the subjective nature of what's about to happen? And it doesn't work. It doesn't get better to communicate that if you know it yourself, if you use
Mhm.
the devices yourself. One time I had a co-founder that we wanted to bring on co-founder, but we actually decided not to. And one of the main reasons why we decided not to bring him on as co-founder is because he decided that he doesn't need to use the device,
Hmm.
that his brain is focused enough, he doesn't need to use it. And I said to myself, how are you going to be a leader in this company when you don't feel like you need to use the main product? And that relationship did not work out.
Sure, that makes sense.
So the biggest proponent of the product is me because I use it every single day. I know exactly what it does.
Powerful. This is all fascinating to me. I'm an occupational therapist and I did a lot of work in neuro rehab, and I've always been fascinated by the brain. Um, relating to your story, I have bipolar depression myself. I wasn't diagnosed till much later in my life, but looking back on it, I saw signs earlier. And we have kids with mental health issues, so I can totally relate to that. And then, the combination of the neuro component, I thought I heard you mention Parkinson's disease. The device has been used for that. My dad actually had Parkinson's. He's since passed, but I just anything about the brain, it fascinates me. I find this very intriguing. I know Don discovered you kind of by accident, and just I can't wait to hear more about the product and everything. And just it's pretty wild how just as an undergraduate you had this idea and then you put it together so quickly. I'm curious if you had, other professors or other people you were with
Hmm.
school with that kind of helped you out with that, or
Yeah, we have advisors from Mayo Clinic, Cleveland
okay.
Clinic, MIT, Ohio State University, University of Michigan, Northwestern Baptist Hospitals, Northwestern universities. We have physicians and surgeons all over the world. A lot of these doctors themselves use the device, so they use the device for cognitive enhancement. We actually have three divisions. So, well, two main divisions, medical division and the consumer division. We have done completed clinical studies for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And we have our cognitive enhancement devices that are used for the wellness application. Now, the technologies have two different therapeutic grades. However, the same science is applied, electrical stimulation. So I have a lot of help, had a lot of help growing this. This was not, I cannot have done this myself. We have a lot of engineers in India and the Middle East helping us grow and building out all of this software. We have a very phenomenal software engineering director in North Carolina, South Dakota, and he helps manage all of our software research. A lot of work has gone into this from a lot of different people. My biggest job in the company is to be the cheerleader, get everybody excited, and when anybody gets lost, I just provide some direction. But that's my job now, to wake
Oh,
up and work for them.
and I'm kind of curious though, it was your idea to start with, and early on when you came up with the idea, like where did you go first, as far as for support?
Yeah, well, I was actually also really confused initially about where to go because I didn't really know where to go. So I just kept telling people, "Hey guys, I have this great idea, I have this idea, I have this idea." And then sooner or later, I kind of bumped and clashed into a networking event in Columbus that does is a science museum in Columbus. I was a volunteer there.
Okay.
There was a medical event, and the volunteer director, she was like, "You should speak to my husband. He's a PhD. He's from MIT, and he runs life science companies."
Okay.
I'm like, okay, very interesting. That man's name was Dr. Jeffrey Spitzner. And he's the chairman of our company 8 years later.
Oh, wow.
He has taught me a lot about business, a lot about decision making, a lot about executing. And so you just have to keep sharing your idea again and again and again
Yeah,
and again. And slowly people start gravitating towards you. What is this? What is that? Talk to him, talk to her. So that's what I kept doing. I'm just
that's exciting.
repeat.
That's that's powerful as a young, what you said you were 20 when you came up with the idea or founded the,
Well, yeah, I was a young individual now. What was really interesting is I actually had nothing else on my mind. I was a 20-year-old with one obsession, which was brain stimulation technology. In fact, it was kind of like I was it was joked upon, what is this the brain stimulation guy, the brain zapping guy. Like he's always reading about brain stimulation, always reading about neuroscience. And it was funny because it was kind of a disadvantage when I was younger, in the sense that, I wasn't super social. But right now, everybody loves me. There's oh, he's the brain stimulator. Yeah, he's been building this for 8 years. I wish I would have done that 8 years ago. I'd be like, yeah, it's just what it is, man.
How did you come across on Parkinson's? And do you have somebody in particular that you had Parkinson's, or is it what did that where did that come about?
Yeah, great question. We actually started with psychiatric disorders,
Okay.
major depressive, bipolar anxiety, and we saw success in these indications. However, they were subjective and hard to quantify, hard to
Hmm.
communicate. So we shifted our tech to Parkinson's, a lot more objective, measurable data, observable data in
Hmm.
terms of our video evidence. So Parkinson's disease was we had to move into that from an investment perspective. Now we still are pursuing the psychiatric indications in the future as well as Alzheimer's disease. Parkinson's disease also is infamous for using deep brain stimulation therapy, deep
Hmm.
brain stimulation surgery, where you have to have a lead placed in your head to stimulate the deep region. So we fit into a big community that resonated already with electrical stimulation.
Hmm.
Anybody that treats Parkinson's knows about DBS, knows about electrical stimuli, how it can help. And so this actually was in this great benefit to us because it allowed us our technology to be adopted quickly by the neurologists there.
There's just so much, well, this and so many questions that are running through my head about the technology and things. I don't know if you remember the name of that technology. Don works with a naturopathic doctor, and
Yeah, I was thinking of that too. We
he utilized some kind of brain stimulation technology.
TMS?
I think yeah, well, I think it was
Was it TMS? It was something kind of new.
well, I'll
Magnetic.
tell you, it was the big machine that they brought in. He paid like $80,000 for this program, and it was a machine they brought in. They put a mask over the head, and then they would stick probes in different places, and then the machine made a lot of noise. It was very noisy when it did its work. It was like zapping. They'd have to sit still and zap it for so long because I mean, we took our son,
Our no, our
our
daughter,
daughter, to
um,
it.
What was the reason you took her for?
she has severe obsessive compulsive disorder. We have actually two
Could be
kids.
transcranial magnetic stimulation,
But it was
brains away.
they did because they first it was like they did the brain mapping and the study, the brain because they're like her brain looks like someone who either has ADHD or autism spectrum. But then the treatment was I don't think it was actually I think it was something kind of different, Don, but I'm not positive. But we didn't really see effects with it. It took a lot for her to sit there for an hour treatments, once a week, I think we went to um, over the,
Electroconvulsive therapy.
Yeah, I'd have to. I should have
That's
looked it
okay.
up if,
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
but
look that up later. But
he ended up selling the whole package to somebody else. I
because
think he.
we weren't quite seeing results and things with it. And we didn't really see results
No.
um, with our
Okay.
daughter with it.
Yeah,
But
because
it
once a
was,
week is not enough at all for
Yeah,
any intervention. It
you
is,
have to do it every day.
yeah, at least five days a week.
okay.
That's what I kind of thought that was one. They were trying to pull people in there on a pretty regular basis, but it wasn't. It was difficult to get people to come in,
Well,
you
because you
know.
had to go there and they had to set things up and the technician had to run everything. And um, yeah, so I'm curious about your product and how it's different than other stimulation things that are out there, like you mentioned DBS and these other
Yeah.
technologies.
So a lot of the products out there require big equipment, like you said,
Hmm.
set up, and you need to have a technician, and you need to drive to the office. Our device is a headband.
Wow.
You plug in, you put it in your pocket. Now, we're
Wow.
building a future model where it's just a button. We're building nice, sleeker models, but really, it's not. It's not really a complicated. Our device is very easy. We almost say we actually don't know how to get it, like how to use it incorrectly. The only way you can use it incorrectly is if you like put it on backwards or something. But we have markers that say like front of head, side of head,
Okay.
Yeah, our devices uses electrical stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why people have not done this before or have not, electrical stimuli has been studied for decades,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody's optimized it. Nobody's figured out the best patterns for the pulse, the best way to send the frequency signal into the brain. That's what we did. We optimized exactly how to send the signals in the brain to lead to the most effective results. That's kind of our magic, and that's our patents.
Okay.
So does it plug into a computer?
Yeah, so right now we do a battery bank, so you can plug into a battery bank or a computer. We in the future we have a model that's coming out where it will be plugged into the computer so you can read your brain waves in real time.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
See the stimulation and see your brain waves.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
cool.
closed loop
Um,
stimuli.
so yeah, I'm as an occupational therapist, I've used electrical stim as, treatment for muscle recovery and things like that. So I know this isn't exactly that, but how is it similar or different? Um,
Excuse me. It
Keeping you up.
is no, it's similar. It's lower power,
okay.
conceptually similar. So
Okay.
you know those ab stimulators. You put it on your abs and the abs start flexing, or your bicep that just starts flexing your bicep. You'd be couch
Right.
potato, but you're still
Right.
getting exercise. Very similar concept, conceptually similar. We're doing it for the brain, but instead of flexing your abs, you're flexing your frontal lobe, so to speak.
Okay.
Telling your frontal lobe, fire, fire, grow, grow, activate, activate. And slowly over time, your brain says, oh, well, I'm flexing all the time, quote unquote. So I need to grow. I need to be more connected. I need to increase my white matter density. I need to be able to operate more efficiently, more limited resources. And so that's what we do. We tell the brain, hey, flex, you know? And it's hard to tell the brain to flex. The best way to tell the brain to flex, not with these brain games. I mean, it's really not even close. They flex a little, but really the best way to quote unquote flex will be deep meditation. Get
hmm
state like levels of 30-minute plus meditation. So if we can take a 30 to 60-minute long meditation and can pack it into 15 minutes and do it passively, so while you're answering your emails, the effects will be absolutely amazing.
Wow. So you only put it on for 15 minutes at a time? Is that?
Correct. And use it once a day. So once a day,
Wow.
15 minutes. Yeah, I
Wow.
like to use it in the morning.
And how soon do people see results? Like you using it yourself, you mentioned, um, how
Yeah.
quickly?
So this is actually kind of interesting. And this is what I was telling you um, earlier about what it does. So let me show you. Oh, I turned on sharing. It's okay. If you can send that request, but you don't have to. So
Oh, okay. Turn on sharing.
yeah, let's see if it works. So what happens is in the first 3 weeks of using the device, people say something like, oh, I'm sleeping deeper. I think I'm sleeping deeper, and that's about it. I mean, I feel a little bit short. Mine's more clear, but I don't know. At 6 weeks of the device, they say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm sleeping deeper. I am more energized, but it could be a placebo. That's what you usually get. Could be a placebo. At 9 weeks of the device, oh, this is not a placebo. And we're like, yeah, it's not. The difference between 0 and 6 is much less than 6 and 12. 6 and 12 is multiple times more, has more results because the effects start to compound, 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 compound,
hmm
compound. So yeah, you use it for 15 minutes a day. People start seeing something in 3 weeks. They start seeing I'm calmer. I'm, a little bit more focused. But at 6 weeks, a little bit more. But 9 weeks is when people start to really understand the influence the technology has.
Oh, that's powerful.
And then is it something that you just use kind of the rest of your life, or is there a certain point that you break off from it, or?
So it's very similar to jogging, or actually, is there a point in time where I don't need to jog anymore? Yeah. So the answer is, I mean, not really. The secondary answer is when you've used it for 6 plus months. I mean, you can take a day off. Maybe you're sick that day, or you're busy, you're traveling. Oops, I forgot it, and you'll still come back to normal. You'll still be fine. Is the same way like bodybuilding. Like once you have a lot of muscle, you can take a day off. You're tired, you sleep in, but you're still generally healthy. So the answer to that question is for the rest of your life, for the most part, yeah, it becomes a tool in your health kit.
Mhm.
Okay.
So Don used to sell alpha stim units. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yep.
And just curious about the difference, just because we learned a lot about those units, and saw calming effects with that. And so, yeah.
They
Yeah,
would,
I love Alpha Sim. I want Alpha Sim. I used the Mind Alive Oasis Pro for a while, but then it broke. But it's like on my purchase list, like I want to buy it again. A lot of these tools are complementary, where you use one at night, you use one before you work out, you use one during middle of the day. They all do a little bit different. Alpha Sim usually is targeting brain stem region, where the you place the electrode clips in your ears and it goes
Hmm.
through the brain stem, which is great. It's not bad. There's usefulness. I like it. I want it. I will use it alongside our deck. Our device targets frontal lobe. Okay, our
Okay.
device targets the main integrative center of the brain. Well, this is more passive. It leads to a little bit more subconscious outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha Sim is still effective, and I still like it. I'm a customer. Ours is much more direct and targets that main area of integrate information integration, frontal lobe.
That makes a lot of sense to me, especially as a therapist, to knowing just all the things that the frontal lobe does. Um, and Don, he had a heart attack a couple years ago and actually had some small strokes, all pretty much in the frontal and parietal lobes of the brain. So,
Yeah,
um, just familiar with the effects, that had. He's recovered great, right, Don? But
well, as best as I can, yes.
still has some word finding trouble and things. But yeah, just, and working in rehab with people with either dementia or other different kinds of things, just, yeah, how powerful the frontal lobe is. So, just that executive function component of the brain and what it does. So, yeah, I'm curious kind of what other populations, you've ventured into with the product.
yeah. No, we have one stroke case study.
Okay.
We was able to get her to communicate better because she had a stroke, left hemisphere temporal lobe, so she was aphasic, lost all ability to communicate with language, verbal language. So we managed to get her to say simple sentences, yes, nos, how are yous, apple, kiwi. I showed the video to Don last week. It was very,
Okay.
no, it was very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple sclerosis we've done
Okay.
brain injury, Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia. We had a case subject.
When you showed me that I was thinking that was the beginning of it. I didn't think that was where she led to. I didn't. I don't know if you probably mentioned aphasia, but I didn't think about that. So I was thinking, okay, so let's see the other side. I was thinking
No,
she's
she
a
was not able to
That
say.
video would have been more powerful to me as someone who
no,
really
I get
understands
it now
aphasia.
though.
And
If
yeah.
she had aphasia and she couldn't talk, that is it was a big difference because yeah,
Yeah,
she was
she
being able to say, three or four words and be able to get her thoughts out a little better. But
yeah,
no, I get it. I get it
and
now.
connect with her family. That was the big thing. I mean, she's not reciting plays or speeches. She's able to say sentences to her family and
Hmm.
quality of be able to interact with them and actually show up to an occasion and be
Hmm.
able to share thoughts and you know enjoy life. Be
Engage in conversation. Yeah. Yeah. Because I work with many people who have very few words. There's actually a relatively young woman. I work at an independent living center. Um, and this woman, she had a stroke. I don't know when, but physically she's fine. But and for some reason, I think she didn't get a supplemental insurance plan for whatever reason. She can't get therapy services, and so she says her name, she says random words, but she can't really communicate beyond that. And I know part of it is she never got the therapy services, for one that she needed to help her progress with that, and how, seeing other people with aphasia, just being able to have some words. Like when Don first had the stroke, he couldn't get any words to come out. He made huge progress in the hospital. And I think because he was a speaker and, had used his brain so much before that it helped with his recovery. And of course, I got in there and talked to the speech therapist and had him do everything I knew to do to stimulate those parts of the brain to bring back his language. Um, but yeah, I know every person is different with a stroke too, as far as how the brain recovers. So there's so much unknown, right, about the brain that it's having more tools is pretty exciting.
Yeah. And I find it very inspiring for leaders like yourself to be able to go in there and work with a population that can be very vulnerable. Because when you lose a part of your brain, you're losing a part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It hurts when people are like, I have words I want to say, and I'm locked. I'm unable to interact with the world. It hurts a lot emotionally with them. So,
Well, I don't think I told you. I work with, I don't know if you're familiar with EFT or tapping,
I'm aware of EFT. Yes.
emotional freedom technique, where you're doing the tapping on different parts
Yeah, yeah,
of the
yeah.
brain. Yeah. So that was difficult for me because, like I said, if I had lost my wording, I wouldn't be able to do
So yeah, he's a
what I do.
practitioner of that. And so then he had the stroke and he had to practice what he was going to say with people to get back into speaking, to utilize that. So um, probably doing the EFT helped with your brain recovery, Don, because I know the more tools like that you have to help the brain recover, it's
Well, like you said, there's a lot of different things that work. Like you say, the alpha stim works, the EFT, all these things work, and that we just have to get, like with your product, getting to the right part of the brain to help get it moving too. So um, we're probably getting pretty close on time. So I was going to say, um, one, any kind of tips you'd give to somebody that's had strokes, or that's a partner of somebody that had strokes, or somebody that even with the Parkinson's, any kind of tips you might want to kind of talk to them about.
well, and I guess my question is, how do people find out about this product? And,
Yeah,
like,
that's the other.
is it covered by insurance? How do people, utilize it?
So our medical devices are still undergoing our pivotal trials with the FDA.
Okay.
So they're not available right now. However, we do have remote trials. So if
Okay.
you log into our website, which is www.uthemind.company, the letter
Mm-hmm.
U,
Right.
uthemind.company. You'll able to see our remote trial, so you can log into that. We can send you a unit we can work with you remotely. But no, also number two is we do have our cognitive enhancement wellness devices that are
Okay.
available to utilize as well. And those are available to purchase right now. And that's also available on the website. One tip, I wish this is kind of awkward because there's a part of me that doesn't want to self promote and say the tip should be to use the brain stimulation devices. Like I don't want to say that because obviously I'm going to say that. But
Right.
what I will say is more specifically, look into neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Okay, what is neuroplasticity? How can the brain change? Why does changing the brain and rewiring circuits of the brain, how could that help with your specific condition?
Mm-hmm.
Stroke, dementia, Parkinson's disease.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you learn about neuroplasticity, then that's a segue to understand the technology. What technologies can we use to enhance neuroplasticity?
Mm-hmm.
That's brain stimulation. That's the alpha stim combined. That's the red light, the different types of tools, right? That's go seeing your occupational therapist and doing these brain programs and protocols. Okay, so my big tip is to study neuroplasticity. Okay, one of the big things about our devices is it enhances neuroplasticity. When you have enhanced neuroplasticity, your brain can change faster and it can rewire itself. It can fix itself,
Mm-hmm.
recalibrate itself.
So and it doesn't hurt for you to say you can use our product too. We don't mind that at
Well,
all.
we're gonna say, I'm gonna just say it. what after you study neuroplasticity, the next step is to find a product that enhances neuroplasticity, and then we can
Sure. Well, I graduated from OT school in 1992, so they've learned so much even more about the brain now than even at that time when I graduated, and just understanding that at any age, right, we still have neuroplasticity. Obviously, it's recovery. I worked in traumatic brain injury for a while, mostly young people from car accidents, but the younger we are, the quicker neuroplasticity can happen and the more, but we used to think that, when you were older, it wasn't going to happen as much. But now I know it can happen all the time. It happens, there's still, the brain has amazing ability to heal itself and regenerate and form new pathways and things. Yeah, it's just one of those areas. I mean, even when I was in school, they weren't as certain about Parkinson's disease, the information I learned about it. And then when my dad was diagnosed many years later, it's like, oh, they've done a lot more research. There's a lot more science. They understand the brain even more now than they did 30 plus years ago. But so it's exciting about this technology that's out there. And it sounds like you're in the process of getting the medical device approved by FDA, because that would be the next step, is going to where it's utilized in healthcare settings.
Yeah.
Because that could be really powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To have that. This has been so exciting, and I know we could talk to you a whole lot longer, and we sure hope to have you on our podcast again.
Yeah.
And how else can people find about you and your product?
youthemind.company or youthemind.com. Both of them will lead to the same site. You can find me on LinkedIn, Mohammed Abouelsoud as well. And we can put that link in the chat or in the description. But
we'll get that up. We'll have that up there on that's not a problem.
We'll put all of that in the description so people can learn more. And again, I hope we have you back on this podcast, but it's been fascinating, to learn about your product, and just we'll have to have another podcast on neuroplasticity to help our listeners understand that even further. Yeah. But we want to thank all of our listeners today for listening to our podcast. Thank you for joining us at Focused Healthy Family. If today's conversation sparked an interest, if you've heard something that you've enjoyed learning about, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone who might benefit from it. If stress, panic, or overwhelm are part of your daily routine, consider Don's EFT Discovery Series. EFT tapping is often described as weird, but it works. Many people start skeptical, but after a few sessions are saying, wow, this stuff has really worked for me. Look what EFT has done for me. For wellness tips, caregiver resources, and more episodes, visit us at focusedhealthyfamily.com or focusedhealthyfamilypodcast.com. You can connect with us on social media. We're at Facebook, Focused Healthy Family, Instagram, Focused Healthy Family 1, and again, we're on YouTube at Focused Healthy Family. You can watch these podcasts as well as listen to them anywhere you listen to a podcast. New episodes of the Focused Healthy Family podcast are released every Thursday. And Don is available to speak to organizations, caregiver groups, healthcare teams, and community groups about practical ways to reduce stress and build resilience in caregiving environments. For more information about booking Don to speak at your location, please reach out to schedule a presentation or workshop. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.